Good evening. Welcome to the Durham Planning Commission. The members of the Durham Planning Commission are appointed by the City Council and the County Board of Governors to make recommendations to elected officials. We emphasize that the elected officials have the final say on any issue before us tonight. While this meeting is being conducted in person, it is also accessible using the Zoom virtual meeting platform. In the virtual meeting platform, public participants do not have the ability to talk or be seen on video by default. In order to maintain meeting decorum and a discernible record of the meeting, the chat function has been disabled. For those attending in person, if you plan to speak on an agenda item tonight, please go to the table to my left and sign up to speak. When speaking, please state your name and your address clearly when you come to the podium. Please speak directly into the microphone. If you are attending the meeting virtually, you will be given the ability to speak at the appropriate time. If you have pre-registered, your name will be called so you can make your comments just like an in-person public hearing. You may also call in during the meeting tonight by dialing 1-301-715-8592. If you call in during the meeting, you will need to wait until the particular public hearing you are interested in starts. After all of the pre-registered speakers have shared their comments, I will ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak? At that point, you will digitally raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone, or if you're here, raise your hand. When recognized, state your name and address before making your comments. The applicant has a total of 10 minutes for a presentation. Each speaker after the applicant has 2 minutes to speak. Commissioners, we have 4 cases. One has a lot of community participation, so we are time limited this evening. Therefore, we're asking a commissioner to have 5 minutes for Q&A and only be called upon to speak a second time after all of the other commissioners have chosen to speak for the first time. If you choose to speak, please have your thoughts and questions organized. Commissioners, as a reminder, after the public hearing is closed, you obtain the floor by being recognized by the chair. Commission members, please remember that you share this time with your fellow commissioners. Keep your comments and questions pithy, and please don't repeat topics that have already been discussed or questioned. The time to make all public statements is before motions are made. Once a motion is on the floor, any further discussion regarding a motion must come after a second. All motions are stated in the affirmative, so if a motion fails or ties, the recommendation is for denial. Commissioners, if you are not ready to move a case forward, please indicate as such when questioned. Finally, I ask that everyone here and on the Zoom, the commission members, the staff, and the public conduct themselves in a courteous and respectful manner. If someone fails to act in that manner, the chair will ask the offending person or persons to leave the room or to be muted on the Zoom until such time they regain personal control. If decorum fails to be restored, the chair will recess the meeting until a genuine commitment to act respectful and courteous is observed. After the case ends that you're here for, please be courteous. If it comes out in your favor, please don't clap. If it doesn't come out in your favor, please don't moan. But leave the room quietly and wait until you've exited the room to have your post-case discussions. And if the door is open, just please close the door for us so we can continue on with the business that remains on our agenda. Thank you. Are we ready for the roll call?
Chair Cameron.
Here.
Vice Chair Shigaris.
Here.
Commissioner Cutright.
Here.
Commissioner Chikowski. Commissioner Gregory.
Here.
Commissioner Huen.
Here.
Commissioner Kopak. Commissioner McIver.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Woke.
Here.
A quorum has been established.
Thank you. There are no adjustments to the agenda this evening, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes and the consistency statement. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Wynn to approve the minutes and the consistency statements. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we're moving into our public hearings, the initial zoning map changes. We have before us case Z2400025A-BDG2400011-1012 Valmet Drive. May we have the staff report, please?
Good afternoon, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, and Planning Commissioners. I am Peyton Burgess with the Planning Department here to present 1012 Valmet Drive, case Z2400025A/BDG2400011. Before I begin, staff would like to state for the record that all Planning Department hearing items have been advertised and noticed in accordance with state and local law, and affidavits of all notices are on file in the Planning Department. This request is for an annexation with a direct translational rezoning of residential suburban 20 for 6.2 acres located at 1012 Valmet Drive and adjacent to existing city limits. The proposal would allow for up to 12 single-family units. Again, the zoning is residential suburban 20. The site is surrounded by the same residential suburban and planned development residential 2.850 and 3.490. The aerial map shows the general location of the project. The property is currently designated mixed residential neighborhood on the place type map. The zoning was determined consistent with the designated place type. The applicant held 2 neighborhood meetings on May 28th, 2024 and August 13th, 2024. There were 7 in attendance to the first meeting and 3 at the second. There were no comments on the Durham rezoning Explorer. The annexation and direct translational zoning request is consistent with the existing place type map and applicable comprehensive plan policies. Staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. The applicant is in the room. Do we have any presentations? Thank you. And I'm sorry, I need to make one statement. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, Pam Porter with TMTLA Associates, and thank you to Peyton for the overview of our request. So just to recap, our request is pretty simple. We're requesting annexation only for 1012 Valmet Drive into the city limits. The existing zoning RS20 will be the same once this parcel is annexed into the city as direct translational zoning is happening. And again, if development in the future would occur, this would allow for up to 12 residential units on this 6.2 acre site. And the place type map designates it as mixed residential neighborhood. Any future residential development will fit within the surrounding character of this area of Durham. And as the staff report noted, we are consistent with the UDO, the comprehensive plan, and the place type map. And that's all I've got. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. We don't have anyone signed up. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak on this that's not pre-registered? Is there anyone on the Zoom that would like to speak on this case? Please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature, or *9 if you called in. Hearing or seeing that no one wants to speak on this, the chair is now closing the public hearing, and we are now open for commissioner discussion and questions. Do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, are we ready to move this case forward? If so, may I have a motion to move case Z2400025A-BDG2400011-1012 Valmet Drive forward?
Chair, as it relates to case Z2400025A and annexation BDG2400011, 1012 Valmet Drive, make a motion that we move this case forward to the City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Cutright and seconded by Commissioner Williams to move case Z2400025A-BDG2400011, 1012 Valmet Drive forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Chair Cameron.
Here, yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris.
Yes.
Commissioner Cutright.
Yes.
Commissioner Gregory.
Yes.
Commissioner Huen.
Yes.
Commissioner McIver.
Yes.
Oh, why didn't that work? Oh, yeah, there we go. Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Woke.
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0.
We will now move to the public hearing for zoning map changes. And the first case that we have before us is case Z2200060-BDG2200030 Sheffield Farms. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you. Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, and honorable commission members. I'm Andy Lester with the Planning Department, here to present Sheffield Farms, case Z2200060. It's good to be with y'all. The following information summarizes the application. The property is located at 8422 Farrington Mill Road. It lies in the suburban tier and currently within the county. There's a concurrent annexation petition with this case. The existing zoning is residential rural, and the applicant proposes to change this designation to Plan Development Residential 3.241. The property lies within the FJB, Protected Watershed Overlay, and the future growth area. If approved, the designation of the FGA would be removed. The applicant intends to build up to 702 single-family townhouse and apartment units with up to 5,000 square feet of retail. As stated previously, the existing zoning is residential rural, and the proposed zoning is PDR 3.241. The properties are currently designated mixed-use neighborhood and recreation and open space on the place type map. The proposed Plan Development Residential 3.241 zoning is generally consistent with the designated mixed-use neighborhood and the recreation and open space place type located at the northern portion of the site. However, the proposed zoning is generally inconsistent with the recreation and open space located at the southern portion of the site. If the proposed zoning is approved, staff recommends a change to the recreation and open space located in the southern portion of the site for mixed-use neighborhood. This is the aerial of the site. To the west of the site is the Army Corps of Engineer property. East of the site is Farrington Mill Road. North of the site is Chapelwood neighborhood. The applicant has included graphic and text commitments. Some notable commitments include 5% income restricted units at 80% AMI for a 30-year period, a $65,000 donation to Durham Public Schools, green building standards for the proposed single-family homes, conveyance of 2.5 acres of property to Preservation Durham to preserve the existing historic structures on site, impervious service limitations to 35.90%, and a proposed wildlife corridor at the northern portion of the site. The applicant has proposed to disperse tree preservation throughout the site. No stream crossings are proposed. Near the pond is the 2.5 acre portion to be conveyed to Preservation Durham. 3 access points are located along Farrington Mill Road, and 2 locations are identified within the site to receive the proposed retail uses. The wildlife corridor, as stated earlier, is depicted north of the site. A neighborhood meeting was held in accordance with the UDO requirements on November 14, 2022. 53 community members were in attendance. A meeting was also held January 8, 2025, and 51 community members were in attendance. There are currently 53 comments for this proposal on the Durham Rezoning Explorer. On the previous social pinpoint platform, there are 87 survey comments and 72 general comments made prior to June 2024. The zoning map change request has been reviewed by staff and determined not to be compliant with UDO paragraph 3.37. Mitigation measures shall be conditions of development approval, and any modifications or deletions shall require the same approval process that was required for the original project. The applicant has excluded the required improvements from the NC 751 and Stagecoach Road intersection from the development plan. The site is also in one of the future growth areas. Should the proposed zoning be approved, the future growth area shall be removed. And the properties are currently designated mixed-use neighborhood and recreation and open space, the place type map. The proposed PDR zoning is generally consistent with the designated mixed-use neighborhood place type and the ROS located at the northern portion of the site. And as stated previously, the proposed zoning is generally inconsistent with the ROS place type located at the southern portion of the site. If approved, staff recommends a change of that ROS place type to mixed-use neighborhood. Thank you. Staff and the applicant are available for any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. May the applicant please come forward.
Good evening, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Patrick Biker. I live at 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm an attorney with Morningstar Law Group in Durham, and I'm here tonight representing MI Homes. With us tonight are our traffic engineer, Earl Llewellyn of Kimley Horn, our land planner, Laura Holloman, and our site engineer, Jeremy Finch from McAdams, and Erica Latham, a vice president with MI Homes. At the outset, I want to stress that the more than 200 acres we are looking at tonight have always been eligible for water and sewer services from the city of Durham. Back in the mid-1990s, I personally worked on and advocated for the boundaries of the 1 mile critical area for Falls Lake and Jordan Lake. That Jordan Lake critical area was shown on the future land use map adopted in 2005, which put these 218 acres in the suburban tier. Then in 2023, the City Council and the County Commissioners approved this area being in the urban growth boundary when they adopted the current comprehensive plan. In accordance with the staff's recommendation, this property was designated in the new comp plan as mixed-use neighborhood, which is one of the more intense designations that there is. As you've seen in your staff report, you have reviewed this project before back on February 13 of 2024. Back then, our project was deemed to be compliant with 14 out of 24 comprehensive plan policies. This evening, we are pleased that the rezoning complies with 26 out of 33 policies, and that is a strong degree of compliance in my experience. I wish to emphasize our commitment that impervious surface will be limited to no more than 35.8%, which means that only 78 acres out of 218 acres will be developed. The remaining 140 acres will be green space, tree cover, open space, and undisturbed. That is a strong commitment. We have also committed to providing our tree coverage through preservation only, meaning existing old growth trees will be preserved. Another great commitment, along with there being 0 stream crossings, as well as the provision of the wildlife corridor reflected in text commitment 13. The staff report mentions the Natural Heritage Program. I'd be curious to know how many folks know what the Natural Heritage Program is. It is a non-regulatory information gathering program aimed at 3 things. The first is to inventory North Carolina's natural areas. The second is to gather and use information from those inventories to guide their recommendations to create a network of nature preserves. And the third is to encourage the protection of natural heritage. This project has done two of those three things. The property owners had the Natural Heritage Program staff inventory the site and gather information. Based on a review of their report, you will see that they found no rare plants, flora, or fauna during their inventory. They did find some natural areas that do not have evidence of past disturbance. This led them to conclude that the restoration potential for this project is high. They believe that with active management and restoration, this tract could harbor rare or uncommon species. We do not dispute any of those scientific statements, but to suggest that this project destroys an existing natural heritage area is false. The report basically says that if you do not touch this land, it could become a natural heritage area. This assertion ignores the fact that the property is subject to an active timbering and forest management plan. And those trees will be removed at some point, whether by this project or pursuant to the approved forestry management plan. The bottom line is that this area will not remain untouched, and this rezoning provides abundant environmental safeguards in compliance with numerous comprehensive plan policies. Next, in regard to affordability, I want to stress that the vision of this project is 100% owner-occupied. It seems to me that most of the affordability commitments I've worked on over the past 5 years have been apartment rental developments. While that certainly is of great community benefit, I am very proud to advocate for the 5% of the for-sale homes in this rezoning that will be designated as affordable. Of course, we all would like to see more than 5%, but right now our initial estimate to extend the sewer force main necessary to serve this area is $10 million, which is well in excess of a typical project. To explain that $10 million price tag, we have to build a sewer force main that is 3 miles long to connect to the South Durham Water Reclamation Facility on Farrington Road, just south of Highway 54. Thanks to that $10 million infrastructure investment, 36 Durham families would be able to purchase a home affordable at the 80% AMI level. And with the green building commitments shown on our development plan, not only is the purchase price advantageous, the monthly cost of home ownership will stay reasonable because the monthly utility bills will be lowered through the committed green building practices MI Homes will employ here. The next issue I want to address is traffic, and specifically the UDO compliance section on page 2 of your staff report. Of the 14 traffic improvements recommended by our TIA, the development plan commits to 13 of them. The only one omitted is the intersection of 751 and Stagecoach Road, and I will explain why. Some of you may know that I was the attorney for 751 South when the Board of County Commissioners approved it on August 9 of 2010. At that time, 751 South committed to improving the 751 Stagecoach Road intersection. On May 15, 2023, the Durham City Council approved a rezoning for 751 South for up to 1,753 residential units, 150,000 square feet of commercial, 150,000 square feet of office. And the City Council unanimously removed the requirement for 751 South to improve the 751 Stagecoach Road intersection. A major challenge with that intersection is that all the land around it is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers. Since the City Council saw fit to remove the requirement to improve this intersection from 751 South, a much larger project that is only a half mile away from this intersection, it is fundamentally unfair to require this project, Sheffield Farms, to fix that intersection when Sheffield Farms is 3 miles away. The justification for this is a well-established constitutional doctrine that any required infrastructure improvement has to have a rational nexus and a rough proportionality to the proposed development. The Sheffield development we are discussing tonight will contribute only 2% of the traffic at the 751 Stagecoach intersection. The overwhelming majority of traffic at this intersection is due to commuters from the Cary area commuting all the way to UNC Chapel Hill, one of our region's largest employers. I find it interesting that over the next decade, NCDOT has allocated exactly $0 to fix this problem, keeping in mind that both 751 and Stagecoach Road are NCDOT roads. Since the required right-of-way and improvements would cost millions of dollars, since this project contributes only 2% of the intersection's traffic, and since the City Council released the much closer and much larger 751 South development from any requirement to improve 751 and Stagecoach Road intersection, it hardly seems equitable to impose that TIA requirement on this development. Next, as it relates to equitable outcomes, this is one area where I believe this project excels. The history of one of Durham County's legacy African-American families, the Nunn family, reflects Durham's history since they have lived in this area for decades. Their family story is truly amazing. The Nunn family has for decades been trying to gain access to city water and sewer so that they can continue to live here and grow their family along Farrington Mill Road. They have septic systems which are beginning to fail. I think it is fair to say, based on the comp plan public hearings back in 2023, that the City Council acknowledged that serving this area with water and sewer is an expensive, challenging, and worthy endeavor. With that $10 million price tag I mentioned a moment ago, it is no wonder that the city does not have plans to bring sewer to this area at this time. Fortunately, we do, and this helps drive an equitable outcome that has been long overdue. In closing, the development plan before you tonight has a profound commitment for the preservation of the area and the structures on this site that tell the painful history of enslaved people and white privilege that existed in this part of North Carolina. Planning, by its very nature, looks forward. This development, I do not represent many projects that can look to the past. This development plan before you preserves our past so that future generations can see where we came from and the sacrifices that enslaved people made over the past centuries. I hope you all noted the text commitment to donate 2.5 acres along with what remains of the slave quarters and the Greek Revival House to Preservation Durham, described on page 46 of the Historic Resources of Durham County included in your staff report. Accordingly, this rezoning reflects large-scale changes from what the Planning Commission considered on February 13 of 2024. This development plan preserves our past, demonstrates strong compliance with current comp plan policies, promotes environmental stewardship, and an equitable future for one of Durham County's long-established African-American families. For all these reasons, we respectfully ask for your recommendation of approval, and our team will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing, and we're going to ask that anyone that has a PowerPoint presentation go first so we can do all those, and I'll call 3 people at a time if you could be ready. And we have Elizabeth, B.B. Moore, Annette Rice, and Bobby Saunders, who have PowerPoint presentations, and we can go in that order, please. And you have 2 minutes, and Aaron, you're going to man the time, and, okay, great. All right, we're all covered. We're ready to, is your presentation up? All right.
Good evening,
Ready to
Madam
go.
Chair and Commissioners. My name is Elizabeth Moore, 109 Lariat Lane in southwest Durham County, 500 feet from the site. The rezoning application for the area 8422 Farrington Mill Road should not go forward as it is not compliant with the UDO. The initial pressure to develop in environmentally sensitive lands around Jordan Lake came from a historically bad decision to build miles of light rail over wetlands. The federal transportation declined funding to prefer higher cost-benefit national projects. Thus, extending sewer and urban infrastructure to this area may no longer make sense, and Durham is already facing emerging difficulties in planning for future water supply extensions. The benefits of the current site zooming are this site is environmentally unique, rural, and mostly farm, with existing tree coverage and part of the North Carolina game lands, which you can see there, and the Army Corps of Engineers, thus permanently under state and federal protection. It is a sensitive area with a high North Carolina biodiversity score, and I have a landscape plan for wildlife connectivity. This was started 30 years ago, and on page 7 you can find information about the open space and wildlife corridors, and I have copies of this if anyone wants them. It was written by 30 expert educational and government organizations and representatives from 3 neighboring counties of Durham County. While scientists estimate that there are over 11 million species, we are only one species. Some of these oak trees can support life for 350 species in one tree. In addition, they can live 200 years. This is not a light thing. This is heavily forested with dogwood trees in the understory, and it should not be developed.
Thank you. Annette Rice.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Annette Rice, and my address is on file. I'm here to talk to you about the sewer situation down around the 8422 Farrington Mill Road area. Obviously, this area was ultimately decided to be included within the UGB as a future growth area dependent upon sewer development. During the March 2023 UGB deliberations, the Planning Department's recommendation was to actually remove this area from within the UGB due to the difficulty of supplying sewer services to this area. The actual sewer basin that this location falls in is the Celeste Circle Basin, and it is currently overwhelmed. The Celeste Circle pump station has recently been replaced, and it was moved further out of the floodlands within the the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer property of flood zone overlay. If you look at the map here, you'll see the red star is the location of the wastewater treatment facility. The red outline to the bottom left is the actual location of the Sheffield Farms proposal. Mr. Biker did mention that they're going to be spending $10 million or offering to spend $10 million to put in a 3-mile-long sewer main to avoid going through that regular sewer basin. What you need to understand is the sewer main that they're going to be laying in or want to propose laying in is actually within a water supply watershed, which is nutrient-sensitive watershed for the Jordan Lake drinking water source, which we will be relying on in the near future. 1 mile of that sewer main crosses a combination of federally protected lands that belong to the Army Corps of Engineers, critical watershed areas, the NCDEQ protected wetlands, and federal flood zones. The City of Durham says that private sanitary sewer system discharges and sewer pipe leaks are the #1 pollution within this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Barry Saunders.
It's not me. Sorry. Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'm Barry Saunders. I live at 8110 Kennebec Drive, Durham County. I want to speak to the threat a Sheffield development would pose to waterways through stormwater runoff. This shows the Morgan Creek flood zone along the parcel's western edge. This basin has been awash in Jordan Lake floodwaters multiple times in the last few decades. The state classifies Morgan Creek waters here as drinking water, nutrient sensitive, and already impaired. These waters do not need more nitrogen or phosphorus or toxins beyond what's already coming downstream from the Owassa treatment plant. Sheffield runoff would be higher volume than it is now due to new impervious surfaces. Runoff would contain nutrients from landscaping, detergents from maintenance, toxins from auto leakage. It would carry silt from erosion, especially during construction. This is what the nutrient-impaired Jordan Lake looked like last February where Morgan Creek enters. Overgrowth of algae like this chokes out native plants, and when algae dies, it produces anoxic conditions that kill aquatic animals. This is Lick Creek, not Morgan Creek, but it's a stark reminder of the perils of silt from construction within Durham County, overcoming our robust stormwater provisions. The sloped western edge of the Sheffield parcel includes a lot of coving from erosion. This is common in the Piedmont from timbering and agriculture that didn't conserve soils. Tree roots are stabilizing all those slopes. The developer's site plan doesn't show a tree buffer along all these upper slopes, western slopes. This shows an edge of the Sheffield parcel that meets steep slope criteria, 25%. There's much more steep slope throughout and just below on core land. Tree roots are key to protecting those slopes. Here are deep erosion gullies at 2 different intermittent streams exiting the Sheffield parcel. This is after just a quarter inch of rain. Thank you.
Thank you. Next for presentations, we have Larry, and I'm sorry, y'all can't read handwriting. T-E-A-T, okay, got it. Linda, is it Linda Castillo? Thank you. And then the next person is, I think it's Tom Galloway.
That's okay. My name is Larry Teatum, T-E-A-T-U-M. I live at 217 Bella Rose Drive, Chapel Hill, Durham. I want to talk briefly about the Little Creek Bridge. Little Creek Bridge was built in 1979 and was under a forced refurbish with riprap because of the deteriorating condition of the supports of it. It's marked here in the middle there, as you can see. Any construction that they do in terms of road mitigation will impact this bridge because they have to expand the road. Somebody else is going to talk more about that, but the bridge is in the middle of that and you can't expand it because, first off, the state has determined that the bridge is structurally deficient currently. As you can see by the 2 pictures here, the bridge is leaning. Now, I'm below line looking at this bridge, and if you look at the bridge pictures, the bridge is canted slightly, and as more traffic comes across it, construction vehicles, that's going to put more stress on the bridge. This is what the sides of the roads look like on the bridge. DOT has not done anything about this in at least 2 years. As you can see, it's eroding away at the base where the highway and the bridge meet. The bridge is 150 feet long. When North Carolina decides to fix this bridge, as it was scheduled to do this year, but with what happened to the west side of the state, we've been pushed down the list quite a bit. They're going to have to close this road completely, and that's going to reroute traffic in all directions, adding immense traffic problems. As you can see, the bridge and the roadway itself, there's no place to expand sideways to make this bridge wider. And as you can see by the other picture, sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what do I hit?
I got you. Yeah. There you go.
So what do I hit?
Arrow.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, my name is Linda Castagliola, and I reside at 217 Bella Rose Drive, Chapel Hill, Durham. My focus tonight will be on the proposed road improvements for the areas affected by the Sheffield Farms project. I would like to question how the building proposes to construct a second eastbound through lane on Farrington Road from Farrington Mill Road eastward with a minimum of 1,200 feet of full-width storage plus appropriate taper. As you can see by my photos, there is at least a 10 to 16-foot steep drop-off along the roads in questions, which limits the buildup for turning lanes as well as limiting bringing up the steep slope up to grade with the current road. From what I was able to observe by walking them when we took these photos, the current roads are not wide enough to make additions proposed by the builder. How does the builder propose to construct an exclusive northbound right turn lane on Farrington at Stagecoach Road with a minimum of 100 feet of storage plus appropriate tapers when the road sides steep
slope steeply. Visually, it didn't seem possible. I also was curious as whether the builder will borrow or use excess dirt for the infill to create these lands. Will the Little Creek Bridge be able to handle the weight of the construction vehicles just for the road improvements? This bridge is up for re-inspection in June 2025 to determine the wellness of the structure. Will it have a posted weight limit sign to maintain its integrity if the project proceeds? How will traffic maintenance be enforced while the bridge is being repaired with the Sheffield construction and the supposed road improvements going on? How much time does the builder give to any proposed improvements? How many trees will be removed for any of the road construction, several of which are North Carolina wildlife game lands? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Callaway, yep.
I already gave them to them too, but no, I also, I don't know, it's a Galloway presentation. My name is Tom Galloway. I live off of Farrington Mill Road. This application is not compliant with the UDO. The 2022 TIA assigned LOS ratings of D, E, and F to the 3 on-site entrances to this development. These are extremely weak traffic ratings. I want to emphasize these ratings are contingent on the applicant making required road improvements at 3 off-site intersections that are traffic choke points near the development site. The applicant is refusing to commit to road improvements at one of the intersections. Therefore, they are not in compliance with the UDO. All 3 off-site road improvements, as well as the proposed sewer line on Farrington Road, will require Army Corps of Engineer approval. Having spoken with the Army Corps, it's my understanding the road improvements and sewer line construction will be evaluated as one project. There are statutory limits on the square footage of project encroachments on Army Corps lands. I suspect the applicant is refusing to commit to improvements at the 3rd intersection because that encroachment would put them over the limit, which will make Army Corps approval very difficult. Traffic in this area is expected to increase exponentially even without this development. Since the TIA was conducted in 2022, 9 developments with 3,940 units have been approved and are advancing within a 4.5-mile radius of Sheffield Farms. We will already need significantly more road improvements to alleviate traffic, not less. What's the point of having a UDO if Durham doesn't enforce it? Do you want to set a precedent whereby developers can pick and choose which ordinances they will or will not comply with? I hope not. This developer must comply with the UDO. If you approve this application, you render the UDO meaningless. Please vote no.
Thank you. The next 3 community members are Ken Pugh, Kate Eyre, and Tammy. Can't read that last name. Sorry.
Presentation.
Ken Pugh should be on.
That's me.
No, just go.
How do I go backwards? How do I go backwards? Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Ken Pugh, address on file. I'm a former registered professional engineer, which describes my engineering experience. For clarification, all professional engineers pass the same engineering exam. A presenter at the last Planning Commission meeting insinuated I was legally representing myself as a licensed traffic engineer. That's erroneous. First of all, I didn't say that or suggest that, nor is there such a title in the North Carolina statutes. But evaluation of this proposal does not require a professional engineer, just basic arithmetic. The current traffic on on Farrington Mill is 10,500. The generated traffic is about 6,000. The total traffic then is 16,500. The limit for D level of service is 14,200, which means that we have excess traffic of 2,300. That gives Farrington Mill an F, which is an official designation in the manual which the Transportation Department uses. So what is an F level of service? Suppose you parked on the top level of the DPAC parking lot for the performance of the Lion King. When you exit, you will experience an F for 5 to 10 minutes. The residents on Farrington Mill Road will experience that F every day. The developer wants to give Farrington Mill Road an F. Please reject that F. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, for allowing us to speak today. I'd like to, first in the first picture, if you look in the very background, you can see Jordan Lake from the property. And that property you can see already under the current sediment management exactly what that lake looks like at the moment. Sorry, next slide. Now we look at where the, just as a reminder, we're talking about all of these things at the purpose of Jordan Lake, and I just want to point out that I'm going to talk about the wildlife and fish management, which is also preservation as part of that process and part of that goal. So if we look at the Durham County map here, we can see that, sorry, it's not showing down in the corner, but you can see how there is very little of the highest and high priority areas within Durham County, which we would like to keep. On the bottom corner, you can see that in the south we have very little that is actually that high and highest priority, and that corridor we want to keep intact. If we then zoom in and see the Sheffield Farms area, you can see that within the Sheffield Farms, the lowest designation is high priority, with a large portion being, or sorry, not a large portion, a significant portion, I would say, being highest priority right down the middle there. If we then look at what the newest proposal says and provides a wildlife corridor, you can see that I don't know where my lines went. So the corridor is here and here that they proposed. On this map, it is here and it is here. And it does not protect at all here. And the corridor actually connects to a non-priority corridor, so it's not even connecting to somewhere where those animals might get away and thrive. If you then look at the flood zone, where would those animals go? They would want to go across this corridor to the other high priority area that I showed in this previous map here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I'm Tammy Soaya on Baptist Road, and I want to talk a little bit about a data point just so that you can keep this in mind as you make your decision and for future annexations that come up. Again, 218 acres. The comprehensive plan said that by 2050 we needed 60 dwellings for Durham. If you break that down into 10-year increments, it's 20 dwellings between 2020 and 2030. Do you know how many dwellings Durham has added since 2020? Well, here it is. I've done the calculation. Preservable Durham has been tracking development in southeast Durham and then in other areas of Durham. If you go by the comprehensive plan, only needing 20,000 dwellings. We've already exceeded that by 8,000. The Central Pine website has a population increase that's less than the comprehensive plan. So that shows that we've already gone over the units by 11,000. The data doesn't lie. The environmental justice screening map tool that EPA has developed, I went to this area, I did that this weekend. If you look at extreme heat, the Farrington Mill Road is almost at the very top. It's between the 80 and 100% heat index. You know we have island issues here in Durham. Why would you cut down more trees when you're in an area that has extreme heat? Why would you add 702 more dwellings when we've hit the dwellings that we need for the next 10 years? Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, we're going to move back in order of sign up. And next we have John Cowan.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John Cowan, owner of Blue Sun Farm, the 112-acre farm adjoining the proposed Sheffield Estates project. My addresses include 8501, 0511, 8801 Farrington Mill, across from the proposed 3 outlets for thousands of cars per day. I've committed myself to develop and run my farm and ensure that our vital and growing rural community continues forward. The area must be restricted to rural farming and single-family homes. This proposal is going from 0 to 1,000, not simply an uptick in density. It's destroying our natural resources forever. Alternatives to fast buck destruction include Durham County open space to purchase it and permanent conservation, or deeding the land into conservation status for tax breaks or low-density development like the Downs. I've committed my land to the Voluntary Agricultural District for 10 years, joining at least 2 other VAD properties nearby like Cedarwood Stables on Stagecoach. I have 7 people who live and work on the farm, and more jobs are being developed every day. We raise honeybees and hay, and we produce sheep, a source of meat to underserved ethnic communities in North Carolina. We have renovated a large equestrian resource center and have opened it fully for business this year. I'm getting public funding from Durham County Soil and Water and state funding for conservation and improved community water. Right across the road, the development impact to Jordan Lake will be devastating. They say holding ponds will suffice, but we see the Army Corps flood control impoundments overflow 3 times a month. These flood impoundments save lives and property down east, and it would be demanding a grave harm to attempt to reduce their area in order to improve traffic flow. Developers have stated that the forest will be clear-cut regardless, but they signed a state forestry program, which is a sustainable forestry management plan. I have one myself. They would not allow clear-cutting. And the Nunn and Quinn families, with all respect, have offered these properties for sale. They've been listed on realtor sites, and they've offered the entire family holdings to me for sale.
Thank you. Next, we have Julian Patterson.
Hello, Commissioners. Julianne Patterson, and I'm the Executive Director of Preservation Durham. Our office is at 701 West Main Street, Suite 310. Preservation Durham is a nonprofit founded in 1974 with a mission to protect Durham's culturally diverse history, heritage, and historic assets through education, advocacy, and action. And I'm just here tonight to confirm our organization's willingness to accept a parcel with the historic farmhouse and the slave dwelling for preservation. This is a big project, and there's a lot of considerations, and I understand that the historic preservation is just one component. So pertaining to the historic structures, we're willing to work with the development team to ensure a positive outcome with the historic resources, incorporated into a future development and protected in perpetuity. I do also see this as a commitment towards response to the Comprehensive Policy Plan 32D, which includes incorporating historic structures into new developments, and Preservation Durham would love to see that happen in more projects going forward as they're proposed. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Next, we have Julian McClintock.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. I'm Julie McClintock. I live at 225 Apple Tree Lane, just across the line from Durham County. I am a retired EPA air quality specialist. who served as chair of Chapel Hills Utility, WASA. This experience informed me about the cost and importance of infrastructure. The key to sustainable new development is providing the expensive new turning lanes, the lift stations, and water and sewer. Housing becomes increasingly expensive when a development like Sheffield Farms is pushed far from urban centers and services. If such a permit were granted, costly housing will result. The rural residential nature of this area contributed to the Federal Transportation Department's decision not to fund the light rail project. Jordan Lake provides drinking water for approximately 700,000 customers every year. It's good news for us that the Corps of Engineers owns the land surrounding the lake and won't issue permits if they see potential harm. However, this hurdle presents a stiff challenge for this developer seeking urban densities around a drinking water reservoir. North Carolina has rules and classifications to protect water supplies. Mr. Shelton Sullivan, a staff member from DEQ, verified this. The subject address is located within a protected area of a water supply for watershed. The receiving water is classified as nutrient sensitive, and the area is subject to the Jordan Watershed Riparian Buffer rules, end quote. I request that the Planning Commission ask the staff whether this proposed project will comply with these North Carolina state rules, and whether the new development aligns with the City of Durham's commitment to create affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Jones.
Hello, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I am Judy Jones. I'm a retired biology and chemistry teacher and with an interest in environmental science. The Sheffield Farms proposed project of 700 homes does not meet Durham's ordinance. The planning staff tells us it's uncertain whether recommended road improvements and urban services can be provided because of the challenges of getting permits and the unknown costs. The Corps of Engineers, whose mission is to protect water users of Jordan Lake, could very likely reject permit requests for road improvements or sewer extensions. From a common sense perspective, building across the street from a regional water supply reservoir makes no sense. After heavy rain, the small 10-foot wide Morgan Creek tributary swells to a wide area of standing water right next to the proposed project. So I call on you to reject the requested zoning change from rural residential to planned development. This unjustified leap to urban densities is at odds with the surrounding rural residential and active farm use. The Durham planning staff has stated the practical challenges of providing water and sewer to this property, and that unless addressed, it should not be part of the growth area. I conclude with a lesson from the California fires, since I'm a transplant 42 years ago from California. A news commentator stated that when you have such overpopulated areas in a sensitive area, you have to support this with essential infrastructure, which did not happen in particularly the Pacific Palisades. The lesson is that Durham must ensure that new neighborhoods possess the critical infrastructure elements to provide a safe environment and peace of mind for all who live there. Please reject this request that lacks the essential infrastructure elements. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Darcy.
I'm Chuck Darcy. I live at 111 Lariat Lane, which is in the Downs community, almost across the street from this proposed development. I've lived there for 46 years. I'm intimately familiar with the roads and traffic patterns that have developed, particularly in the last 10 years. Farrington Mill Road is a commuting road for Chatham County traffic, which has become heavy over the last 10 years. A few days ago, I was attempting to pull out of Kepley Road onto Farrington Mill. 33 cars passed before I was able to make a right turn. This is not unusual. Recently, when returning from Pinehurst during rush hour, I met cars coming the other direction on Farrington Mill Road, backed up bumper to bumper for almost 1 mile. In addition, Barbie Chapel, Farrington Road, and Stagecoach Road is now a main conduit for traffic to and from Chapel Hill for cars accessing I-40 because the I-40-54 intersection is so congested. The road improvements outlined in the Sheffield Farms proposal are window dressing, which will have no practical effect on the traffic volume. This is assuming the U.S. Corps of Engineers will even allow encroachment on government property. Quite simply, this area is rural, surrounded by Jordan Lake wildlife areas, with a 112 farm directly across the road and a bridge too far for development of this size, particularly considering the developments which are already built or approved for areas between here and I-40. It should be noted that development along Farrington and Barbie Chapel is for the most part single family, with the exception of some apartments near the intersection of Barbie Chapel and 54. And I should say also there are some apartments near 54 and Farrington. Subsequent speakers will outline or have already outlined more substantive evidence.
Thank you. Holt Farley, I'm sorry. Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Holt Farley, and I live off Farrington Mill Road. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will briefly address the traffic impact analysis for the Sheffield Farms proposal. This TIA is fundamentally flawed and unreliable, making it unsuitable for planning decisions. Key issues include, number one, bad data. TIA is a computer simulation that relies on accurate input data to produce valid results. The TIA used underestimated traffic volumes, low ambient growth projections, and omitted significant traffic sources. Number two, the flawed methodology. Without validation, the TIA conclusions are meaningless. It is standard professional practice to validate computer simulations, yet no effort was made in this case. Misleading results. Unrealistic inputs lead to overly optimistic intersection ratings. Most intersections in the TIA analysis barely pass with a grade D, even with the proposed mitigations. With realistic traffic volumes, these will degrade to gridlocked parking lot levels E and F. The TIA ignored challenges. The TIA has sidestepped the obvious need for U.S. Army Corps of Engineers approvals for right-of-way to widen lanes. Issue number 5, the community impact. If this proposal is passed, the city of Durham will ultimately be burdened with negotiating right-of-way approvals, a costly and time-consuming process. In the meantime, traffic delays will be severe, with no viable alternative routes available. The only beneficiary in this scenario is MI Homes, which profits while leaving the community to suffer the consequences. In conclusion, the Sheffield Farms proposal relies on a deeply flawed TIA. I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Addie Air.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Addie Heim, and I am a resident of the Downs neighborhood, currently studying conservation biology at NC State University. I don't see a benefit of building this massive neighborhood to anyone except the developers. It will be detrimental to the surrounding environment from a significant increase in already bad traffic congesting, creating prolonged carbon output to the deforestation of valuable wildlife habitat. Durham is such a valuable place to live due to the trees and wildlife in and around the city, but a decrease in forest cover is not what we need in this area. Might I also point out that the developer talked about building greenways and green spaces, but that is still development to undisturbed land. Many of us neighbors moved to this area because we value the nature surrounding us, from on our properties to the surrounding miles of woods. I thought we had escaped the constant deforestation in this area, but maybe we haven't. Thank you for your time.
Marlena Hine, finally got the last name right, sorry.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Marlena Heim, and I live at 7624 Kennebec Drive. I'm a senior at Charles E. Jordan High School, where this neighborhood or project would be districted to go. Jordan High School is already highly overpopulated at roughly 121% capacity already just this year. Just in the first quarter and a half of my senior year, paper has already been in short supply, and so students have been banned from printing necessary documents needed for school and to complete necessary schoolwork as well as for studies. As well as teachers being ordered to cut down on paper usage, not allowing them to print necessary documents for students to give out for work. Another issue regarding Durham Public Schools is the parking. Recently, as of this year, since the increase in students has become such an issue, parking has become an issue where students have not been allowed or not been able to have parking spots, so they have to find other ways of transportation. Transportation has also been an issue for buses when parents cannot take their kids to school, and with the bus driver shortages, then Sheffield Farms would only increase this issue, as well as the lack of education and the increase in capacity at Jordan High School. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Laura McCall.
Thank you. Melora McCall. My address is on file. I'm not in the vicinity of the Farrington Mill Road project, but I understand that decisions today will impact future development decisions where I do live. The applicant seems unwilling to risk both credibility and trust to manage Durham's limited resources and their agricultural lands by failing to meet these UDO codes, the comprehensive plan policies, act in accordance with recommendations from the reviewing groups, or thoughtfully incorporate the community feedback. The City of Durham should not be so willing to compromise their credibility or standards by choosing to allow procedure, the UDO ordinances, or newly finalized policies of the comprehensive plan to fall aside in consideration of the development plan for Sheffield Farms. Placing conditional commitment to meet requirements or recommendations for the rezoning approval is problematic, and it's a slippery slope for Durham to engage in. They've had nearly another year to address these shortcomings, but they're unwilling or unable to address the fundamental issues that exist with their proposal. High-quality development proposals will come to Durham when our governing bodies hold the line on standards and accountability. I urge you to reject this rezoning proposal as presented for consideration today on the foundational issues of noncompliance and for undermining Durham's greater policies and procedures that are striving to generate development that's in alignment with our community goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam Porter. No? Oh, got it. All right. Is there anyone else in the gallery that would like to speak on this case? Yes, ma'am.
Madam Commissioner, Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Kathy Rexroad. I had signed up to speak. I don't know if you didn't get my name. But I would like to just speak briefly about affordable housing. The proposal states that 5% of affordable housing should be allowable because of the high $10 million cost of infrastructure. That is not in compliance with the Durham County Commission Comprehensive Plan, which states that affordable housing should include 15% of units. Right now, the median home prices per Zillow on our zip codes and the two surrounding zip codes range from over $400,000 to $730,000 per home. That's the median price. And our median income for Durham County is listed as $80,000. There's a huge disconnect there between what people who are our teachers at Durham Public Schools, what our nursing assistants make working in our hospitals, working in our nursing homes, to what is needed for them to become homeowners. So affordable housing is not optional. It should not be something that's punted around as maybe a concession later. We don't comply with this, well, maybe we'll give you a little more affordable housing. Second, there is no public transportation to this area. The nearest public transportation is 1.5 miles away on roads with no shoulders and no sidewalks. So it is not feasible to add public transportation to this area. Well, it might be in the future, but it's not there now. And thirdly, the comprehensive plan states that residents should be able to age in place and stay rooted in their communities, even as their physical or mental abilities change. There are no units committed to accessible housing in this development. The plan does not state that there should be a certain percent, but there is nothing there. And affordable and accessible go together. So I urge you for these reasons to vote against the development proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the gallery? All right, moving to the Zoom. If there's anyone in Zoom that would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function or *9 on your phone. Anyone on the Zoom that would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function. Not seeing any. All right. At this time, we're going to close the public hearing, and we're now open for commissioner discussion and questions. Commissioner Williams.
Good evening. One of the community members mentioned that they did a presentation on the wildlife corridor and mentioned that there's no access from one of the highest areas of wildlife to the existing across the street. Just wanted to ask the developer if they had considered creating some sort of wildlife corridor for that. I have a couple other questions. Should I ask them all at once?
Well, if Patrick wants to come up to the podium, and then you can ask her the questions.
Hey, good evening. Laura Halban, I'm with McAdams, 2905 Meridian Parkway here in Durham, a project planner for the case, and you asked a question about wildlife corridors. You know, obviously this hasn't been an easy site for us to think about laying out. There's a lot of different variables that we have to consider. In terms of where we placed the wildlife corridor, there was a lot of things that we took into consideration. One of them being the wildlife corridor, as specifically written by the UDO, states that, you know, we're encouraged to be directly adjacent to other existing tree protection. I know that, you know, this is adjacent, I believe, to, you have to cross a very significant road, Farrington Mill. So that's why we wanted to establish the wildlife corridor we did, so it would line up with the existing tree protection on the other side. We also wanted to help take into consideration a lot of the neighborhood feedback we received from the adjacent community. Specifically, we wanted to commit to establishing not to connect to that existing Hines Wood Road. So we wanted to be able to create a large swath of tree protection areas there. So by establishing the wildlife corridor on the other side of the stream buffer, as well as furthering that tree protection to ensure that they all were protected by not extending that road, and being able to definitively show that went into consideration in terms of a high priority item.
Commissioner Williams, if you're familiar with the development plan that's in your package, you would see that it's on the northern segment of the Sheffield Farms, but what it does is it connects the Army Corps land and ties in the preserved land that's with the Montclair neighborhood, and that connects it all together. So you're actually talking about preserving a wildlife corridor that connects dozens, if not hundreds of acres.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, she has more questions.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Another community member had mentioned 15% of units for affordable housing was kind of the expectation, and wanted to, I shouldn't say expectation, but bear with me. Would you be willing to consider increasing your commitment to 15%?
No, ma'am. No, that's not. The only projects I've worked on that attained 15% affordable were projects that had a subsidy from either the city of Durham or some other governmental agency. That's not attainable by a strictly private sector initiative. I certainly am not. I'm not saying that my experience is universal by any means, but I've certainly worked on, I think it's fair to say I've worked on more affordable housing projects in Durham, well, with the exception of this guy named Neil Ghosh. I just don't think it's realistic for any private development to get anywhere close to 15% without a subsidy. So 5% is, I think, a strong commitment to affordability. When you look at the $10 million of sewer infrastructure, if you have 702 homes and townhomes, and you have spent $10 million on sewer, that's over $14,000 per lot just for the sewer infrastructure. So when you look at that and you combine it with 5% being 80% AMI affordable, I think that's a very strong affordable housing commitment from a private project that's receiving absolutely zero subsidy from either Durham City, Durham County, or the federal government.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
Mr. Gregory?
Yeah, so I'm going to follow up to some of Commissioner Williams' questions and inquiries. So looking at the development plan, the graphic development plan that's included in the application materials, the attachment H, which was a document provided by the Natural Heritage Program, outlined natural area in the southern half of the site. It seems like you'd get a lot more bang for your buck doing a wildlife corridor through there. I'm not entirely sure why so much of the environmental conservation work is concentrated in the northern half of the site, and why it's not kind of spread more evenly across. Because obviously there's a lot of concern with public input tonight regarding some of these environmental issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the main concern, Commissioner Gregory, is once you go south of the 10-acre pond, you're getting in close proximity of Farrington Mill Road. So it's really to try to keep the wildlife away from the road, and also to avoid the stream crossing there that goes into that 10-acre pond. That's why.
Gotcha. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And then just one kind of additional question. So in the application materials, it's noted that the proposed parking and building envelope encroaches on some of the steep slopes that lie adjacent to protected Army Corps land on the western side of the project area. And so with those topographic features in mind, I'm just curious if you can kind of inform me at this point whether the applicant is planning on employing mass grading to level out some of that, considering that the building and parking is projected to be right there.
I don't know if we've gotten that far to get prescriptive about where we're going to specifically go with steep slopes. I don't know if, Jeremy, you want to talk about what the UDO allows us to do in terms of steep slope mitigation. Yeah, exactly.
Jeremy Finch with McAdams Company, the civil engineer on the project, 2905 Meridian Parkway. We have not done full site design yet in terms of grading to know all the impacts and everything, but the UDO, if I'm not mistaken, allows you to impact a certain percentage of the steep slope. So we will be looking to stay within that threshold that the UDO would allow for impacts.
Commissioner Shapiros, Vice Chair Shapiros? No? No other questions? Commissioner Wynn?
Thank you. Let me see if I can rapid fire this. So before I ask you about this, just wanted to confirm, we had 35 units for the affordable housing proffer in the packet, and you said 36.
Yeah, it's, you actually have to round up because it's 702. You actually have to round up, so it'll be 36.
Gotcha. And then can you walk me through the rationale if they're for ownership, why only 30 years for the affordability period?
Well, that's to, that would deed restrict those 36 homes so that the appreciation would not be subject to market forces, but it would be predetermined by the deed restriction, similar to a land trust model, not exactly like it, but similar to it. Therefore, families that would buy these affordable homes, they would see some appreciation, but it would not be the level of appreciation that our region has experienced, especially since the pandemic. So that's how it would function after 30 years, that restriction would go away. So if the original owner stayed there for 30 years, they would be able to receive the full market benefit, but it is to encourage the homes to turn over, say, 2, 3, maybe 4 times within that 30-year time frame, but maintain a level of affordability relative to the 80% area median income. I hope that answered your question. I don't know if it did.
Yeah. Next question is, I think there were some community concerns around some of the TIA mitigation things that y'all committed to and being able to get the right of way and approvals and blah, 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 all that stuff. So I guess question for staff, if they commit to those within the zoning, and then after the fact can't do it because they can't get right of way or something, like what happens then?
Sure, Earlene Thomas, Transportation. So if any of the committed elements from the zoning cannot be achieved, my understanding is that a new zoning would be required.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I think you touched on this briefly in your presentation, but there were a number of mitigation things that TIA required. So could you give me that full number, and you're not committing to one of them?
Yes, sir. There are 14 recommendations from the TIA. Our development plan commits to 13 out of the 14. They are listed on, let me see, oh, sorry, on the development plan. They're listed on page, on the cover page in the, what's essentially the bottom right corner. You can see there are 13 specific traffic improvements that are committed elements or tax commitments of this development plan. Just briefly, the improvements would be at Barbie Chapel, Farrington Road, Farrington Mill Road, and the North Side Driveway, Farrington Mill Road, the Central Side Driveway, Farrington Mill Road with the South Side Driveway. Earl, if you've got anything, Earl, our traffic engineer, knows that much better than I do.
Yeah, I think as far as the number of improvements that we're not doing, it depends on how you lump them together. It's either 2 improvements of, I wrote this down, 2 improvements of 16 or 1 improvement of a list of 15. And the ones that we're not doing are, as has been said, we're at the intersection of Stagecoach and NC 751.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. And then I think the other big concern raised by folks was due to the proximity to drinking water and stuff, the stormwater concerns. My understanding is y'all are complying with the 10-year stormwater event for runoff mitigation. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe it would be basically what Durham requires per their code, per their stormwater standards, what we would be complying with.
So based on the concerns around the drinking water, would y'all consider a 100-year storm event?
I mean, 100-year, with this being the Army Corps land next door, I mean, 100-year detention up against the Army Corps land is, don't know that's going to provide us a flood control system that basically ponds up. So providing 100-year detention to have to discharge basically into flood control wouldn't be the same benefit that you would get if you were trying to, detain as it drains through neighborhoods and houses.
But wouldn't it detain the runoff? Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, but The issue is detaining the 100-year storm makes more sense when you're further up the basin. But when you're close to if you think of it like a funnel, if you're at the top of the funnel where it's wide, then detaining the 100-year storm makes
Yes, I understand gravity.
you want the water to go on through.
I think my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner, Vice Chair Shigaris.
Yeah, a question for the applicant. One of the community members expressed a concern over the riparian buffer requirements because it's a watershed to Jordan Lake and NCDWQ. Does McAdams have any more information on exactly what those numbers are? And is there a commitment to, take care of all of the riparian buffers on all of these small streams that we saw on this property?
Yes, good question. Yeah, we're in conformance and will be in conformance with all of the applicable city and state laws requesting. So yes, we'll meet all the riparian buffers. That's why we also did the significant, I know in one presentation, it talked about how the maximum impervious surface could be 70%, but we have considerably reduced that down to just over 35%. That was done also to address the specific concerns about proximity to Jordan Lake as well.
Good. Yeah. Could staff come back up and answer this question for me again and just explain it to all of us like we're kindergarten? So this says that it is not compliant. Is it not compliant with just a paragraph of the UDO, or overall does not comply with the UDO, period?
Chair, Aaron Kane with the Planning Department. I think the quick answer to that is that it is not compliant. The UDO states that they need to be compliant with all improvements that are shown as required in the TIA. As the applicant has stated, there is one of those improvements that comes from the TIA that they will not be doing, and that is what they are not compliant with.
Okay, so even though there's this long list of commitments beyond the UDO on page 3, because of that one thing, they're still not compliant.
That is correct. They are not compliant with that one aspect.
Okay. Any other questions? None other questions? Nope. All right. Are we ready to move this case forward, the recommendation? Somebody has to, cut right's not here, somebody has to say it.
I make a motion to move case Z2200060-BDG2200030 Sheffield Farms forward with a favorable recommendation to City Council.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Shigaris and seconded by Commissioner Williams to move case Z2200060-BDG2200030 Sheffield Farms forward with a favorable recommendation. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, and Madam Chair, before I begin the roll call vote, I just want to make sure that
Let me say all that, and then you say but. Go ahead.
It's not going to make you say it again. I just want to make sure that the commissioners are aware, as well as the members of the audience here and watching online, that Commissioner Cutright is not available at this time to vote, but he does still count for quorum, and per rules of procedure, if he's not here to vote, he is an automatic yes vote. So I won't read him, but Just want to make sure everybody was aware of that. Chair Cameron.
Pass me up right now.
Okay. Vice Chair Shigaris.
No.
Commissioner Gregory.
No.
Commissioner Wen.
No.
Commissioner McIver.
No.
Commissioner Williams.
No.
Commissioner Woke.
No.
I got to go.
It's back to you.
Yeah, no, that's right.
I'm sorry?
No.
No, okay. The motion fails 7-1.
All right. Moving on to case Z240600060-BDG2200030 Wake Forest Highway. May we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Aaron Kane with the Planning Department. This is case Z2400016-5502 Wake Forest Highway. The request for this case is for a rezoning from rural residential to residential suburban 20 to commercial general with a textual development plan. The current place type is mixed-use neighborhood, and staff finds that the request is consistent with the place type. This site is also within the FJB watershed protection overlay. The proposal is to change the zoning to C commercial general with a development plan which lists a number of prohibited uses from what is usually allowed within commercial general. As I stated, the existing zoning is rural residential and residential suburban 20. The site is surrounded by similar RR and RS20 zoning. The proposed commercial general zoning would create a new commercial node at this intersection as part of a future mixed-use neighborhood. The aerial map shows the general location of the project. A charter school has been approved southeast of the site. The property is currently designated mixed-use neighborhood on the place type map. The proposed zoning was determined consistent with the designated place type due to the creation of a commercial use at this intersection and being adjacent to future civic and residential uses. The applicant has included text commitments, including prohibitions of certain primary uses that are generally permitted in commercial general, as well as planting of native species and right-of-way dedication. Neighborhood meetings were held on August 21st, 2023 and January 9th, 2025. No comments on Durham Rezoning Explorer have been provided to date. The proposal is generally consistent with the place type map designation of mixed-use neighborhood due to the proximity of adjacent civic and residential uses and introducing a commercial use to the area. The proposal is consistent with 13 of 18 applicable comprehensive plan policies. Thank you, and staff and the applicant are available to answer any questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. May we have the applicant, please?
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Letitia Shapiro, Morningstar Law Group, 700 West Main Street, here on behalf of the owner applicant. I want to first thank staff for his presentation, and rather than going over what you just heard, I would like to provide you with context related to the intent of this request. Mr. Broilard and his wife have owned this property for approximately 25 years. They understood one day that development would come to this area, and they invested in this hard corner because of its location. It is now their desire to rezone the property to make it marketable as a commercial opportunity as part of their retirement and estate planning strategy. The request is to rezone to commercial general to allow some services at a key intersection in a location that has seen mainly residential development. There is no current plan for the site, no end user, no prospective tenant. However, we are hoping that someday it will provide retail. His plan is not to sell this property, but to entitle it for a commercial and ground lease it. Obviously, with all the residential development in the area, this will be a good location for a small commercial use right at a corner. There will be a lot of pass-by traffic, but it is only 2.3 acres, so it will likely be a small one-off operation. I do want to say that Mr. Broilard is a real estate broker, but he is not himself a developer. This process has taken perhaps longer than we would have hoped because we really got started at a time when there were significant changes to the comp plan and rezoning process being considered. And as a result, we have actually had about 3 neighborhood meetings for this project based on the various changing requirements. We really had not heard a whole lot from the community until this last meeting. And actually, there didn't seem to be a lot of concern over the proposed zoning itself aside from traffic. More so, there was some frustration with the notice requirements, which we did meet. For this meeting, we sent out over 80 notices via mail to the properties and property owners within 1,000 feet, and we also posted the property with signage. And again, that was our 3rd neighborhood meeting for this project. So that is the summary of this request, and we thank you for your time and respectfully request your support for this project, and I'm happy to do my very best to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, do I have the sign-up sheet for this? Thank you. Pam Andrews. Who wants to go first? Tammy? Okay. And then Letitia Shapiro, was that that's you? Okay.
Same position.
Thank you. These signed up on the wrong one. So Pam, Wanda, and Alan, you all are together?
Yes.
Okay, and then is Catherine still here? Catherine's not in. I think she probably signed up on this one. Thought that was the last person, maybe. All right, so I think you 3 are the only speakers. Let me know when you're ready.
Tammy Sawyer, my address is on file. I want to give you an overview here of the property. My concern is it's across from a small business. We have traffic issues there. Why do it now? Delay it. We don't have any input into what commercial is going there right now. I want to point out that also on Kemp Road is Perry Farms, which will have 665 dwellings that will come out on Kemp Road. So, and then you have the Durham Charter School with 1,200 students. It's going to go all the way to 12th grade with 12 buses. There are no new fire stations out there to accommodate the population growth we've seen in Southeast Durham, which is about 34,000. Station 8 and 17 cannot handle it right now. The property is on the top of the hill, and there will be a stoplight. This is from Google Maps. And the property will be RD as part of the UDO revision. And RD notes limited commercial. We need commercial out there, but we need citizen input into the commercial. Why do it now? Wait until a business is identified. And then I wanted to point out 2 comprehensive policies that was not listed, and this does not meet. Policy 116 and Policy 117. We need to have safe and easy access to our daily needs. And you got to identify the costs and the benefits of new development, or in this situation, we need to know what's going there and how does it benefit the community. And then also I looked at the environmental justice screening map tool for extreme heat. And this property is between the 60 and the 80 percentile because we have seen, as you know, extreme growth in Southeast Durham. Thank you.
Do I need to let the clock reset? No, I'm here, I'm good. I just didn't want to make sure the clock reset. I didn't want 2 seconds to speak. All right, Pamela Andrews, my address is on file many times. All right, I wanted to first of all, just say good evening, Chair Cameron and the team. While PRD recognizes the need for commercial in the area, I want to first show you a few of the images of wrecks that have happened recently in close proximity to this property. Look how close these are. These are serious, serious wrecks. Preserve Rural Durham has been continually bringing up the dangers of Highway 98 along with the increased traffic volume due to 49 new developments approved or pending in this area. A new fire at EMS station is needed and has been promised for several years now. At first, we had hoped this land might be the new fire station, but no, it is not. Fire response times are shown in Q1 graph. Keep on, Tammy. Keep right there. Q1 graph of 2024. Please note every fire station's response time was going up, up, up. The standard is 6 minutes. While I don't have the final report for 2024 on the response times, I did just get the final call volumes for the stations. Station 8 answered 1,730 calls, which is assigned to this parcel. 17, which is a neighbor station, had 910 calls. Station 8 still does not have a ladder truck that is needed to answer a lot of these emergency calls for townhomes, tall buildings, schools, etc. Next. Firefighters are definitely not at full staff. Each shift hires back 10 to 12 firefighters of overtime pay each shift, just to have 3 firefighters on a truck when 4 are needed. Lots of times the ladder truck can't even be staffed. Environmental, I got to touch on that quickly. This is at the top of a hill. When you clear cut mass grade blast, it's going to run down the hill to this pond, which is adjacent to it. That pond then drains down into this little creek, this tributary that you see. That tributary has suffered from major violations from the 2 around it. I don't want to name who they are, but there are 2 to the point they got stop work orders and were made to cease and desist. It is a serious deal in this environment out here. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wanda Allen, and my address is on file. I'd like for you to take a minute and look at this chart, and I'm going to try to explain to you some backgrounds and concerns. If you look at the chart, it is a chart that is in the part of the UDO rewrite, and it clearly states that there will not be any retail or commercial in this area. And we have been heavily involved in this UDO rewrite. And I want to come back and address how the citizens learned about this last community neighborhood meeting. One of the citizens, one of the individuals found the sign laying on the ground, and it was not marked with the RQ code. It did not have any information about the date. They spent hours contacting the residents around that area trying to find out information about it. They also called the county planning department, and that's how we learned about the meeting. Okay, we were very interested in this area because we really thought that we were going to get a fire station, or we really thought that we were going to get a park or open space that has been promised to us numerous times, and we have not gotten it. So here's the problem. Here's the real problem. A number of the properties in this area that you've heard us speak on a number of times have been bought and sold, and none of the commitments have been upheld, okay? They are supposed to adhere to the commitments, but they're not. So the Durham soil and erosion are having to go out. Yes, there are violations, but once you cut out the wetlands and once you cut out the trees, you can't put them back. So, and as the others have addressed, there's no infrastructure out there. And then we learned at this community meeting, once this is flipped and it goes commercial, that we in the public have no more involvement. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to vote that's in the gallery? There are no attendees on Zoom, so we're closing the public hearing, and we are now open for commissioner discussion and question. Any questions for the applicant? Going once. Commissioner Vogel.
So why is it being brought now when we don't know what is going to go there? Like, would it not make sense to wait until they have a buyer and know what's going to be going there before it comes to be rezoned?
So the purpose, again, for the rezoning is to make it marketable for a commercial purpose, so we'd have to rezone it for commercial general now. So we do not know exactly, we have to make it marketable to be able to find those retailers, to be able to see what we can put there. So that's the reason why we're doing it now.
Commissioner Shigaris.
Yeah, following up on that, commercial general, according to the comments from the citizens, is it won't be allowed to be commercial general after the UDO rewrite? Will they be grandfathered in if they get it now? Is that true?
So we're in the initial stages of putting together a new UDO. The zoning district that is shown on the at this time proposed new UDO is reflective of the current zoning on the site, which is RS20 and RR. Should the site be rezoned commercial, we would need to take that back and have have some conversations and think about what might be the appropriate new zoning district under the new UDO based on the new zoning that would be applied.
I'm more confused than ever.
More confused than ever. I don't.
So, yeah, so let's say, for example, because there's an annexation involved, the city council were to agree to rezone to commercial general under this development plan, we would then, as staff, look at what would be the most appropriate new translational zoning district to the new UDO based on that new rezoning. It would not necessarily be RD. The RD proposal is based on what it is currently zoned. If the city council chooses to change that, we will look at what the most appropriate zoning district would be in the new UDO.
Commissioner Williams.
You mentioned that you're rezoning for marketability. The uses or the things that won't be allowed, are they going to be written into the deed? How is that going to
They
work?
actually become a part, just a zoning condition.
Okay.
Yep.
Vice Chair Shigaris.
Yeah, for the applicant, if you didn't do commercial and you did some other type of rezoning, like mixed use, where you could have like a first floor retail or something, would that not have the UDO problem or requirement or?
No, that would be actually a question for staff to answer.
Oh. City staff.
Staff question.
So under the proposed development plan under CG, an upper story residential would be allowed, and we would look for a new zoning district under the UDO that would permit that. What the applicant has said in the development plan is that they would prohibit household living as a primary use, but it could still be a secondary or accessory use.
Additional questions? Still pondering. Are we ready to move this case forward? May I have a motion to move this case forward?
Madam Chair Cameron, I make a motion to move case Z2200016-BDG24 000095502 Wake Forest Highway forward with a favorable recommendation to City Council.
May I have the roll call vote, please?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, second, I'm rushing. I'm looking at 7:22, did I get to this break? Go ahead, sir. It's been, it's been moved by Vice Chair Shigaris and seconded by Commissioner Williams to move case Z2400016-BDG2400095502 Wake Forest Highway forward with a favorable recommendation to City Council. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, and the Commissioner Cutright's affirmative vote still applies to this case. So Chair Cameron.
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris.
No.
Commissioner Gregory.
Yes.
Commissioner Wen.
Yes.
Commissioner McIver.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
No.
Commissioner Woke.
No.
The motion passes 5-3.
All right, thank you. We are going to go ahead and take a break. Usually take a break at, sorry, Patrick, you almost got back up here. We have to take our break for our closed captioners. And when y'all want to get back? Let's get back here at 7:45? Yes, 7:45, or you want 35? It's. Let's do 7:40. Split it down the middle.
7:40 it is.
Is that 20 minutes? Yes. Oh, I wanted 15. 7:35. 7:35. We'll be back at 7:35.
I came to the City of Durham to improve living conditions for residents, and I stayed because I'm encouraged to advance my career. The City of Durham, where careers meet community. To connect with a career that serves the Bull City, visit durhamnc.gov/careers. Vine a la ciudad de Durham para mejorar las condiciones de vida de los residentes. Me quedé porque me apoyan a avanzar en mi carrera. La ciudad de Durham, donde las carreras se encuentran con la comunidad. Para conectarse con una carrera que sirve a la ciudad del Toro, visite durhamnc.gov/careers.
How do you attract say a high school basketball player who's interested? I mean, what would you say to him about joining the fire department?
So
I'll put you on the spot.
No, high school guys, high school people are in general, they're easy to target because they're young. So for me, it's always about the money. Hey, when you're 18, you can make $45,000 straight out of high school. I don't know many 18-year-olds that can make $45,000. On top of that, look, you're in a team sport. You want to be part of the team. Continue on that team essence. The fire department is perfect for you. You know, we have that bond. We have that family, that chemistry. We like to play pranks and jokes just like you do when you're on the team. Mm-hmm. This will be the perfect job for you. So, you know, I just feel like, hey, you may not be able to go to college and play D1 ball, but you can serve your community and still be part of a team and make your impact.
Everyone in Durham should be able to find a home they can afford. That's why Forever Home Durham is creating affordable, livable, and inclusive communities for low to middle income residents. From renting to owning, find out how the city is helping more people find homes right here in Durham. Learn more at foreverhomedurham.com.
Owning a home provides a sense of financial stability, family, community, and pride. But housing prices are now higher than ever, making it hard for many Durham residents to afford their first home. That's why the City of Durham is offering the Down Payment Assistance Program to support eligible individuals with up to $80,000 in 0% interest forgivable loans to purchase a house within the city limits. Visit this site or call to find out if you qualify for the program.
We're calling the meeting back to order. At this time, we'll hear case Z2200019, Chin Page Road Apartments. Are we ready to have the staff report?
Hello again, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, and Planning Commissioners. I am here to present Chin Page Road Apartments, case Z2400019. The request located along Chin Page Road is for a rezoning from industrial park and residential rural to planned development residential 24.115 for the development of up to 360 multifamily apartments. The existing zoning is mainly residential rural with a small amount of land being industrial park. The site is surrounded by industrial park, industrial light, residential suburban 20, and rural residential. The aerial map shows the general location of the project. The site is located near Research Triangle Park and the amenities that surround it, although it is auto-dependent with limited transit options. The property is currently designated general industrial and recreation and open space on the place type map. The proposed zoning is inconsistent with the designated place type of general industrial, so staff recommends that if the zoning change is approved, the place map be amended so that the general industrial area is changed to apartment and townhouse neighborhood. The applicant has included the listed commitments of up to 360 apartments, not to exceed 60 feet in height, recreational open space amenities, 3% of units at 60% AMI for 30 years, landscape easement, right-of-way dedication along Chin Page Road, a $68,500 donation to Durham Public Schools, a 10-foot wide concrete shared path, and a potential greenway connection. The development plan shows the tree preservation area along the edge of the project as shown in the grayed out area with the stars. The plan also shows 2 access points, one towards the north and the second having 2 options subject to NC DOT approval. You can also see the 10-foot shared use path along the site's frontage as well as the building and parking envelope outside of the 100-year floodplain. The applicant held 2 neighborhood meetings, one on February 22nd, 2024, and one on November 6th, 2024. No community members attended those meetings, and there were no comments received on the Durham Rezoning Explorer for this case. Staff determines that this request is consistent with 19 of 27 comprehensive plan policies. If the request is approved, the place type map designation should be amended from general industrial to apartment and townhouse neighborhood to maintain consistency. Staff and the applicant are available to answer questions.
Thank you. At this time, the chair is opening the public hearing. The applicant is at the podium and ready to present.
Good evening, Chair Cameron, Vice Chair Shigaris, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Patrick Biker, 2614 Stewart Drive. I'm an attorney with Morningstar Law Group, and I'm here tonight representing Griffith Capital LLC for this agenda item. With me tonight are my client, Warren Mitchell with Griffith, along with Pam Porter of TMTLA, our land planner for this infill multifamily development. At the outset, I wish to discuss the place type map designation for this site. While the place type map is a fine resource, one has to recognize that Durham County has approximately 112,000 separate parcels of real estate. For the adopted place type map to be 100% correct is, I think, unrealistic. Of course, facts on the ground change over time. One of those facts is that the large industrial buildings across the street from this site that are owned and occupied by Wolfspeed are about to be vacated completely. Wolfspeed has outgrown this facility on the north side of Chin Page Road, and it is building a massive factory in western Chatham County. President Biden rightfully made it a national priority to have semiconductor manufacturing happen in our country. And one result of that priority is that the 340,000 square feet of industrial space across Chin Page Road will be vacated as part of Wolfspeed's move over to Chatham County. Accordingly, I think it is not wise to build new industrial space on the south side of Chin Page Road at this location when it will be important to focus on redeveloping these large Wolfspeed buildings. Besides that, the City Council has approved at least 4 very large industrial parks for Durham, with a total of more than 4 million square feet of new light industrial space. I am confident that Durham has plenty of light industrial inventory for the foreseeable future. Therefore, if this site is not a great fit for industrial, I think it's fair to say it also is not a great fit for office or commercial either. Demand for office space is pretty low, and a mid-block location is tough for any commercial enterprise. By process of elimination, I would submit that multifamily is the highest and best use for this property, and there's a well-established successful apartment community called 200 East, formerly known as Edinburgh at the Park, at the corner of Chin Page and Miami Boulevard. That demonstrates multifamily works at this location, and you can see the 200 East apartment complex on the left side of that aerial map. That's attachment B in your staff report. In addition, the area along the north and south sides of Chin Page Road towards the Page Road intersection has experienced significant multifamily and single-family development over the past few years, and that's only a half a mile to 1 mile away from this location. I hope all the Planning Commission members noted that the building and parking envelope is outside of the environmentally sensitive areas in this site, and we are following the place type designation for the acreage designated as recreation and open space. Now, I'd like to briefly address our community engagement. We held 2 neighborhood meetings, and both times 0 neighbors attended. But I do wish to emphasize that our team did post signs at the entrances of nearby residential neighborhoods in order to boost our community engagement efforts. Next, in regards to affordability, we realize that designating 3% of the apartments as affordable needs to be increased. To further address that issue, I hope everyone noticed that the owner of this site that we're discussing this evening is Goodwill Community Foundation. Our development team want to provide a strong purchase price for this site in order to benefit Goodwill as greatly as possible in order to maximize support of its mission to help our least fortunate families in eastern North Carolina. Lastly, it is unfortunate that interest rates are remaining rather high as we start 2025, and that, of course, makes financing multifamily development difficult. However, our team believes this is a strong location for apartments, and we respectfully ask for your recommendation of approval. Pam and I will be happy to answer any questions, and we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have anyone signed up to speak. I already have it. And we don't have any participants on Zoom. Just asking.
You want to go and find some? I can go.
All right. I am now closing the public hearing. Open for commissioner discussion and questions. Vice Chair Shigaris.
For the applicant, yeah, Goodwill, this was a Goodwill community garden site. I did volunteer work there more than once.
I bought this jacket at a Goodwill store for $8.
Cool.
Yeah, sweet.
The back of the property is wet, though.
Yep.
So, and that's where the recreation and open space.
That's correct.
And I also saw, I believe, somewhere in the staff report, something about a dog park or open space or some other things.
That's a requirement of the PDR zoning district, so we have to meet that.
Okay. Do you have any, I mean, there was a couple of things that might be picked from. Do you know which ones?
At this time, I don't think we have that. No, I'm sorry, Madam Vice Chair. We haven't gotten far enough down the road to figure out what the amenities would be, but obviously the PDR zoning district requires a high level of open space and a high level of amenities. We just have to figure out what would be appropriate for this location. So
okay,
that'll work out.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. Yes. So I see in your site plan that you have the open space designated that, you know, fairly matches the ROS designation on the place type map. However, it says that you're not compliant with the comprehensive plan to locate open space to protect environmentally sensitive areas, and I wanted to clarify that.
I don't understand. Do you understand that?
In the report we got?
I'm not aware of what the discrepancy would be. Do you have any idea, Pam?
Do you know what page that's on?
Yes.
I remember reading that. I'm just not sure what page it was on.
Let me find it. Page 6, yeah, 5 to 6.
Is it one of the comp plan policies? Which one?
81.
Okay, so because we don't have a working site plan yet, we've not identified where the open space areas are going to be, but we do have to meet the minimum, and they will likely be spread out, but they're not identified on the plan because we don't have buildings and parking identified. Once we have that detail worked out in a little better, we'll have a better idea of where the open space areas are. But we are cognizant of this, and we will spread them out and make sure they're located appropriately at the site plan stage.
Yeah, I was going to say that we looked at what we have, so they do commit to the tree coverage all being together, but there's not a commitment to the open space all being together, so we couldn't say that they were meeting that policy based on that. But they could certainly, there's nothing that prohibits them from meeting that policy at the site plan stage.
Right, and usually for apartment complexes, it's not all in one spot, it's spread around. So if we do, for example, if there's a dog park and a playground and something else, they're not all going to be together. They'll be spread out in amongst, the site when it's designed.
Yep,
good point. Commissioner Gregory.
Yeah, I just want to commend the applicant for kind of not touching the ROS place type and making sure that the proposal's building and parking envelope isn't going to impede the floodplain. That's good to see. So,
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Are there any other commissioner questions, discussion? Are we ready to move this case forward? If so, may I have a motion to move this case forward?
Okay. I make a motion to move case Z2200019 Chin Page Road Apartments forward with a favorable recommendation.
May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Williams and seconded by Commissioner Gregory to move case Z2400019 Chin Page Road Apartments forward with a favorable recommendation to City Council. May I have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, and before I start the roll call vote, just again stating for the record that Commissioner Cutright's vote will be a yes vote because he is not currently available. Chair Cameron.
Yes.
Vice Chair Shigaris.
Yes.
Commissioner Gregory.
Yes.
Commissioner Wen.
Yes.
Commissioner McIver.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Woke.
Yes.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. There are no committee updates at this current time. Do we have any new business?
No new business and no announcements from staff, other than I would like to commend the chair and vice chair for their color coordination tonight. And we would like to see more of that in the future.
Thank you. Hearing none, we are adjourning the meeting. The meeting is adjourned. Happy New Year.